Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of U.S. History Made Plain. I'm a high school history teacher trying to make history as fun and interesting for my students as possible. So let's talk about something. In school, we learn lots of misinformation and lots of things about the North and the South and generalizations about the people there. But it's important to understand that not everybody in the North felt a certain type of way about anything, and not everybody in the South felt a certain type of way about everything. So in the North, for the most part, they wanted to end slavery, but for many different reasons. There were some people in the North who thought that slavery was immoral and they wanted to, abolish it completely, and they just felt like everybody should be equal and have the same rights and all of that. You also had people in the North who felt like slavery should not be allowed in the South because you have these men who are sitting on their butts doing absolutely nothing and making buku dollars because they have all these people working and doing all the work for free. They don't have to pay them for anything, and they're making lots of money. And if they didn't have these people, they wouldn't make the money that they make, while the people in the North are having to work for their money for the most part. So some of the people in the North just resented the people in the South and thought that slavery should be ended because it wasn't fair that the plantation owners were really truly doing nothing and making so much more money than a lot of the people who were working in factories and working, hard to make their money in the North. You have people in the North who didn't like slavery, but also didn't really know what slavery was, or didn't agree with slavery and wanted to end slavery because of the South, and they just didn't like the South. They had heard about slavery. They know that people are working for free and it doesn't seem fair, but they don't know all that it entails. It wasn't until Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote a book and let everybody know what was going on in slavery. And so then once people read this book, they had to then decide whether they were going to be okay with knowing now what slavery was and whether they were going to be on the side of it or actually take a stance against it. Harriet Beecher Stowe's book was called Uncle Tom's Cabin, and it was published in 1852. And so when this book was published, everything hit the fan, because now people in the North were reading about seriously what was happening in the South, according to Harriet Beecher Stowe. So the people in the South said the book was a lie and she was making up stuff, but she wasn't. She was telling the absolute truth. Things like the fact that the plantation owners would grab the biggest man on the plantation and then whip him in front of everyone, and then put salt in the wounds, whip him until his back opened, his wounds open, his welts opened, and then pour salt in those wounds so that it would hurt as bad as possible, and also so it wouldn't heal well, because the plantation owner wanted them to be an advertisement, a walking advertisement on why you should follow the rules. And so it opened the eyes of a lot of people in the North about how Black people in the South were being whipped, punished, raped, beaten, hanged, tortured, mutilated, all of these things for simply being alive. Not because they did something wrong. Please don't come in my comments and be like, well, they just followed the rules. They're slaves because they're Black. So didn't matter what they did. Doesn't matter what they did. They were beaten because they were Black, and they were slaves because they were Black.